Hey everyone, in this new stitch video, I'm going to show you how to knit the chevron lace. I would put this stitch at a advanced beginner level or an intermediate level because it is a lacy stitch and it provides a fabric that looks really pretty, as you can see here. And this is a great pattern to try for maybe the border of a scarf, or you can really even try it for like the whole scarf or a cowl. I've used this stitch in the past to knit up the border of a sweater. Here's a ratty old sweater of mine that I'm currently using, and you can see how the border of the sweater or the edge of the sweater has this stitch. So lots of different ways to knit up chevron laces. This here is one technique which I'm going to show you in this video. Now there's an alternate way of knitting this, and if you'll see here, actually let me put these side by side. Here I've made another swatch using the chevron lace stitch, but this one is knit up differently than this one, and you can see there's subtle differences. Here the ridges tend to stand out, whereas here there's no real ridges as such. And both of these swatches I have blocked. Actually it should be this way, sorry, that's the right orientation. So both of these I have blocked because otherwise they do tend to roll at the edge. So I've kind of flattened them out, as you can see. So this is what the finished one will look like. In this video, I'm going to show you how to do this left swatch. If you're interested in this alternate version, then I'll give you a link at the end of this video, as well as in the description field to look for that one. Now the pattern for this one is also provided in the description field, and it is knit up over a row, over a multiple of 8 stitches, but or rather 8 rows, but you need an initial row of a knit and a purl. Okay, so let me show you how that's done. Now for that this pattern, you need a multiple of 10 stitches plus 1. So I have cast on here a total of 21 stitches. So that's a multiple of 10, which is 20. And then you add 1 at the end. And I've done a couple rows of knit. I'm going to go ahead and do a row of purl. So the pattern, if you look at it in the description field, it'll tell you to do row 1 all knit all the way and row 2 all purl all the way, which I'm doing right now. And that row of knit and purl, those first 2 rows, what I'm calling the setup rows, you only have to do it one time. So let's go ahead and get done with this purl row. Okay, almost there. Just a few stitches. Now for this demonstration, I'm using double pointed needles. You don't need double pointed needles for this pattern. And I'm just using size 9 needles in this yarn, the thicker yarn, to for a better demonstration. Okay, so now that we've done the initial setup row of 1 knit and then or knit all the way across and purl all the way across, we actually start the pattern. Now for the pattern, you're going to have a repeat that you do each time until you get to the last stitch, and the last stitch you're always going to knit on the right side row. So row 3, or rather row 1, after your setup rows, row 1 will begin on the right side, and the pattern goes like this. You knit the first stitch, then you bring the yarn over as into the front, then you do an SKP, and what that means is you slip the next stitch purlwise, so just insert and bring it over. Then you knit the next stitch. Now remember, your yarn is in the front, so as you knit, you're going to create a stitch. And then you pass the slip stitch over. So the second stitch here on this needle, the one that we had just slipped, I'm going to take my left needle, insert it in there. I'm going to use my index finger to hold on to that first stitch, and I'm going to take the stitch and pass it over. Okay, if you want a slower demonstration of SKP, I've provided a link to that in the description field as well. To a video that just shows how to do this SKP. All right, so knit 1, yarn over, SKP, which is what we just did, and then knit 5. So we're just going to knit the next 5 stitches. Then you do a knit 2 together. So you take the next 2 stitches and you knit them together. So you're going to insert your right needle through front loops of both stitches and knit them together, drop both stitches, and then bring the yarn over, which means bring it to the front. Okay, and that's your repeat. So you're going to keep repeating this throughout. Now because I only have 21 stitches, I'll only have to do this repeat one more time. So I'm going to go ahead and do this now. So the repeat goes again: knit 1, yarn over, slip, knit, pass the slip stitch over, knit 5, then knit 2 together and bring the yarn over. Once you've gotten all the way through your pattern, through how many ever stitches you have, every 10 stitch repeat, you get to the last stitch. Remember, your yarn is in the front because you've done that yarn over and you want it to be there. You knit the last stitch, okay? That's it. That's the end of row 1. We're going to turn the work and we're just going to purl all the way across. So the best part of this pattern is that every alternate row, every even row is a purl row. And so if you're using this pattern to knit up a big blanket, then you do have to focus on the row that we just did. The odd rows you're going to have to really focus, but the even rows you can tune out and just purl them all the way across. So that's the one thing I do like about lace knitting, especially these kinds of lace patterns where the alternate rows are just purl all the way across, or maybe they're knit all the way across. It just gives your mind a little bit of time to rest and not have to focus so much on the pattern. All right, so when you get to the end of the second row, turn your work, and now we start row 3. So row 3, it's pretty much the same stitches that we just did, but we're just going to shift them by 1 stitch. So at the start of row 1, you had knit the first stitch. At the start of row 2, you're going to knit the first 2 stitches. Then you bring the yarn over, you do an SKP, just like we did in the previous row. Okay, oh, split that stitch, don't want to do that. And then now in previous row we had knit 5, now we're just going to knit 3. And then you knit 2 together and bring the yarn over, and then you have a knit 1 at the end. So that is your repeat. Let's do that one more time. Knit 1, knit 2, yarn over, slip, knit, pass the slip stitch over, knit 3, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1. And you'll keep doing this repeat until you get to the last stitch, which in this case you're just going to knit. Okay, and we turn our work and do row 4, which is just a purl all the way across. So I'm just going to go ahead and purl it. When you do this purl row, the only place you really need to be careful is when you get to the point where you come across a stitch that's a yarn over type stitch, because it's easy for that stitch to just drop off like that. Okay, so if that happens, don't panic. Take your left needle and reinsert it or pick it back up. All right. And the other good thing about this lace pattern is pretty much every row your stitch count is going to remain the same, because with some other lace patterns sometimes the stitch count can vary from row to row, but in this one it's going to remain the same. So that's another way for you to check your work. If you complete a row and you're not quite sure if you've done it all right, you can always check your stitch count. All right, so that's the end of row 4, and you'll start to see the little holes starting to form, right, of the chevron lace. All right, row 5, again, pretty much sticking with that same sequence of stitches. We're just going to shift it by 1 more. So here we go. Previous row we had knit the first 2 stitches. Now we're going to knit the first 3 stitches. Yarn over, S, K, P. And then we're just going to knit 1 stitch this time, knit 2 together, yarn over, and now we're going to knit 2 stitches. So that is the repeat that you're going to keep doing. So let's do it one more time. Knit the first 3 stitches, yarn over, S, K, P, then knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, knit 2. Keep doing that till you get to the last stitch, then you're just going to knit that. So that was row 6, or rather row 5. Row 6 is just going to be a purl all the way across. My needle keeps hitting the base of the table and it's making a weird squeaky sound. I apologize if that's a little irritating. I'll try to hold it up. All right. That is row 6 done. We have 2 more rows left. And again, you can see the beautiful little V shape forming with the little holes. Now row 8 is a little bit different. So row 8, again, we shifted by 1. So this time we start off by knitting the first 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you bring the yarn over. Now you do an SK2P, and what that means is you're going to slip the first stitch, but instead of just knitting the next stitch, you're going to do a K2, which means a knit 2 together. So you're going to take your needle, insert it through the front loops of both stitches, knit it, drop both stitches off, and now the P is still past the slip stitch over. So you're going to still pass this stitch that we just slipped, you're going to pass it over like that, okay? And then you bring the yarn over. No knitting a stitch right after this one in this row. You just bring the yarn over and then you knit the next 3 stitches. And that is your repeat. Let's see that one more time. Knit 4. Bring the yarn over, slip, knit 2 together. So SK2, then pass the slip stitch over, yarn over, and then knit 3. And the last stitch, when you'll keep doing that repeat till you get to the last stitch, which you're just going to knit. And then that was row 7, turn around, row 8, you're just going to purl all the way across. Once you're done, you're going to keep repeating. Actually, let me go ahead and do that. I'll do that. So row 8, you're just going to purl all the way across. And after you've done an 8-row repeat of the pattern, if you're first starting off with this pattern, it's good to just stop, look at your work, check it to see that the pattern looks okay. You've ended up with the right number of stitches. It should be the same as the number that you cast on, and that everything looks good. And because this is a lace pattern, I would highly recommend putting proactive lifelines. I've provided a link to that video on how to insert proactive lifelines. Just because it's easy to make mistakes in lace patterns, and a proactive lifeline will give you a little bit of insurance for your stitches. There. So now that you've completed all 8 rows, you're going to repeat the pattern again from row 1 through row 8. So again, you'll start off with row 1, which was knit 1, yarn over, slip, knit, pass the slip stitch over, knit 5, knit 2 together, yarn over, okay? And then you repeat that sequence again, and you keep doing that. So you'll start again with row 1, row 2, all the way through row 8. So you keep repeating rows 1 through 8, and pretty soon your work will look like this. All right, couple other points to make. If I had added a couple rows of knit at the start. If you don't, and if you just start off the pattern right from the base, starting with 1 row of knit, 1 row of purl for your setup rows, and then start the pattern, the base will tend to curl up a little bit. So if you're using this for a scarf pattern or a cowl, I would recommend having a couple rows of garter stitch or a border of some kind to prevent the rolling. The same thing goes for the sides. The sides can also roll a little bit. So again, if you're using this pattern for a scarf, might help to add a few additional stitches on the side, maybe 5 stitches on this end and 5 stitches on this end. Whatever you add, that's on top of the number of stitches you're going to cast on for the pattern itself. And remember, for the pattern, it has to be a multiple of 10 plus 1 stitch. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please click the like button. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do. The links right here, or the logos right here, please click on that, and you'll stay up to date on all my videos. Click the bell icon when you subscribe, and that way you'll get notifications of all my upcoming videos. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments field for me. I will do my best to answer them. Thanks as always for watching, and happy knitting!